welcome everyone. Really excited to have so many people in the room. And since this session was actually fully booked only 2 days after being published, I'm assuming this topic might resonate a little. Quick show of hands, how many of you have built a dashboard you were really proud of and then realized leadership actually never used it? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a big chunk. I wasn't expecting that. Raise your hand if your organization heavily relies on PowerPoints to share data. Awesome. So pretty much everyone. Cool. So that's the problem we're going to be talking about, or the topic we're going to be covering today. It's a little bit uncomfortable, especially when you work in the data space, and but very real. Why executives don't open dashboards and what you actually do about it. My name is Nabil. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Rollstack. Before that, I spent plenty of years building dashboards and working in analytics, but also building a lot of decks. I have an ex-consultant background, worked at BCG in my early days, and it's just amazing to be surrounded by so many data practitioners. I've been telling the team there are not that many venues where we get as a data fam the chance to get together. So I'm really excited about this opportunity and being surrounded by this incredible community. I'm also going to be joined on stage by two fantastic data leaders. We're really lucky to be partnered with at Rollstack, Rachel and Tyler from Tripadvisor. Tyler is the Director of Finance Analytics at Tripadvisor, and Rachel is a Senior Analyst. They'll introduce themselves in more details, but I can tell you they're two of the most formidable, sharpest data leaders we've had the chance to work with at Rollstack. And today they'll walk you through how they've approached this very important topic and of executive reporting at the world-class data org that Tripadvisor is. Let me quickly just set the stage of what we'll be covering today before I hand it over to our Tripadvisor friends. We'll start first with how analytics is structured at Tripadvisor and how the team actually thinks about data and reporting today. Always great to see what world-class organizations, B2C, with all the volume of data that comes with it, that Tripadvisor is structuring their data and analytics. Then we'll zoom out into what we call the last mile problem, the gap essentially between where data lives and where decisions actually happen. And then from there, Tyler and Rachel will walk you through how they've approached solving this internally at Tripadvisor. From there, we'll cover how they rolled it out, what worked, what didn't, and then we'll close out with something that the audience here at Data Fam absolutely loves, a live demo. And I can tell you that my nerves are racking about this idea, but we'll do that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Tyler.
All right. Thank you, Nabil. Hey, everyone. My name is Tyler. I run the finance, analytics, and data science function at Tripadvisor. So I've been at Tripadvisor 8 years. I've done strategic analytics, experimentation, product analytics. So I've had experience across the organization. Right now, we sit within the finance organization, which means I support the entirety of the Tripadvisor line of business. We are comprised of resources across analytics, machine learning, data engineering, and I like to describe our team as kind of a mix between a traditional business intelligence function and then also a more strategic analytics function, partnering with the rest of the business to go into some of the examples I'll talk about on the right-hand side there. So what does this look like in practice? What do we focus on? First things first, we partner heavily with our financial planning and analysis group. So that's enabling the budgeting and forecasting process, monitoring the overall health of the business, digging into pacing trends, how travel demand is evolving, all that kind of good stuff. We also work as a strategic deep dive partner. So either on certain analyses that may rise to a certain level of scrutiny that they want the finance line of sight on, or just a project that doesn't necessarily fit neatly into the rest of the organization's remit, we are available to partner with those teams or to work with those stakeholders to dive deeper into problems. An example I give a lot is into unit economics. So that touches pretty much every piece of our business, and so we have teams focused on those areas, but we can come together and really dive in across all those different sources of information. The last piece we touch on is executive reporting, or what I like to call the corporate deliverable cycle. So that can cover everything from weekly finance updates, monthly check-ins, quarterly business reviews, the earnings process annually and quarterly, board decks. Our team is heavily involved in all of that work, and it's this last piece that gets a little repetitive and I think is a hint towards where we're going with the rest of the presentation. Cool. So how do we think about our data organization? So What I like to summarize it as is we have a centralized foundation with an embedded analytics layer. So in the middle there, you'll see our centralized data and analytics engineering team. They're responsible for delivering trusted, consistent, governed data and reporting assets to the rest of the business. Surrounding that, we have these embedded analytics functions. So within the marketing organization, we have a marketing analytics and data science team. Within finance, we have my finance analytics team. Within product, we have the product analytics team. What we found over time, we've experimented with the centralized model and a decentralized model. By embedding the teams, we think it tends to give us more opportunity to collaborate as thought partners and be more involved in the day-to-day execution, versus when we were centralized, it felt a little bit more disconnected and felt a little bit more like ticket takers. So this has worked really well for us, but like I said, we've experimented with a lot of different setups. You'll see there's these dotted lines between each of these functions. So in particular, first you see it between the central data analytics org and then these embedded analytics org. We are passing business knowledge, business requirements to that centralized team. They're passing back governed data assets, best practices, all that kind of good stuff to make sure we're doing things the right way. And then particularly for our team, it's really important to collaborate across the analytics functions. So for better or worse, finance often ends up as the source of truth of the business. So it's really important that we are talking to marketing analytics, to product analytics, and making sure we're all using the same definitions, the same verbiage, talking about the business in the same way. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard examples of someone asking what is going on with conversion, and you don't know what conversion they are talking about. So it's really important we align across the business and we're talking to each other day in and day out. Okay, and so how do we get this done? So we have a variety of tooling we use, and I categorize it here as using the right tool for the right job. I'll say this is an oversimplification. We have a lot of, as you can imagine, our tech stack is very complicated, but I bucketed it into these three pillars. So first, we have the transformation and preparation layer, primarily owned by that central data and analytics engineering organization. So you see things there like data warehouse and data lake tooling. You see Python there for data manipulation, DBT for transformation. We also have some really good internal tooling we've built out over time that our team leverages. As you move to the analysis and insights layer, again, you see the BigQuery and Snowflake for data transformation. You see Python for maybe some of the more sophisticated statistical analysis we might need to accomplish. And then we have a variety of these other tools. Amplitude, really great for sequential product analytics. Looker, really, really good for slice and dice capabilities. We kind of use this as a replacement for our old OLAP cube that we used to run. And then Tableau, I'm sure everyone here is familiar with. Again, slice and dice capability, exploratory data analysis, and they're really powerful visualizations. As we move to the presentation and visualization layer, you see some of the same technology. So Amplitude, Tableau, Looker, Google Sheets, we are a finance organization. We do build bespoke reporting in all of those areas, but what we found is over time that stakeholders and leadership are not necessarily going to go and poke through all your disparate reporting assets. So what's often the best solution is to curate those insights into a single source of truth. For us, that best in class, I think Nabil already mentioned it, is a slide deck or a PowerPoint. In particular for us, that can get a little bit repetitive as we talk about the quarterly process, board cycles. We're typically talking about the same metrics or telling the same story over and over and over again. Maybe we're evolving the storytelling, but the metrics look very similar. It can be very tedious to go and grab that same visualization over and over again every week, month, quarter. So I'll pause there and I'll turn it over to Rachel to talk a little bit about how we've gone about trying to solve that last mile problem.
Right, and everyone can hear me okay. Rachel Byers, Senior Data Analyst on the Finance Analytics team at Tripadvisor. I think I'm coming up just on 3 years there. So as Tyler was just saying, slides are one of the main forms of communicating analyses at Tripadvisor. I'm going to zoom in on one slide deck in particular that ended up being the catalyst for us trying to find a way to automate this workflow. The weekly business review deck, owned by the finance analytics team, is a beast. It is over 100 slides and 300 plus visuals and tables. And as the name implies, we send it out every week. There's a large portion of the weekly deck that is stable content. Every week, we just need to refresh the numbers that are in it. There's also an ad hoc spotlight section, and we do that every single week based on the trends that we're seeing and strategic business needs. So that's a combination of stable and ad hoc piece there. About a little over a year ago, the workflow that we had to prepare the deck every week, we migrated it from Excel and PowerPoint into Google Sheets and Google Slides. And we were using embedded image links inside of Google Slide decks so that we could refresh most of the visuals that were inside of there. And that worked, but it just didn't scale very well. And as the deck grew over time, people kept asking for us to add things to it. It became more and more fragile and it started to break. So links would stop working, refreshes became unreliable, and building out that spotlight section, the ad hoc visuals inside of Google Sheets was really cumbersome and it just wasn't a good solution. In order to avoid analyst burnout on producing this deck every week, we actually did a handoff, so a different analyst would produce the deck every week. And on a particularly unfortunate week, that could turn into some really late nights, and it ended up pushing back team priorities as well. And at the same time, throughout all of this, we had a Tableau dashboard that had all of these same views and visuals, but no one was really using it or looking at it. It was built for slice and dice analytics, so it had all bells and whistles, it had filters and parameters, so it was a great candidate for that ad hoc analysis work. We wanted to find a way to leverage that dashboard and really make it a more powerful self-service analytics tool across the org, and also have a more standardized, uniform look to all of our visuals and have one source of truth for our data. And maybe at the same time, it wouldn't be a bad result if we could save our team a lot of hours of work. So we were looking for an automation solution. We investigated several options as we were doing this work. We were looking for built-in Google solutions that would just work for Google Slides, so add-ons and app scripts. And then we also looked at some third-party platforms like Slideform and Rollstack. And as we did this investigation process, our enterprise procurement team helped us build out a business case, reminding us that the best solution would not be only for one team and one deck in Google Slides, but for all of the teams and tools that Tyler was saying that we have at Tripadvisor. So it had to do a lot of stuff. So we landed on Rollstack because it was that high-level enterprise solution that we needed. We found that it could do multiple data sources in one deck. Just in the weekly business review, we had Tableau and Google Sheets and Looker all in one deck. So Rollstack let us keep all of those. We didn't have to do any additional work. And then we also loved that it was compatible with all of that ad hoc flexibility that we had already added into Tableau. So it let us preserve all of the filters and the parameters. And that meant that there was a future for that Tableau dashboard, that people could still use it and do their own self-service analytics once they were familiar with the layout and how we were communicating the metrics. And finally, the last big win was the Slack support that Rollstack had. So that helped offload the troubleshooting and the technical expertise. Our team didn't have to help other teams learn how to use the product. Instead, our analysts could focus on what they did best, analytics. So once we had landed on Rollstack as our solution, we moved from evaluation to adoption. And we did that in 3 stages. So our first stage was just focusing on that one weekly business review deck. And we knew that once we had a really focused pilot for that, we could build out some groundswell from other teams in a lower stakes environment, since we were just testing at that point. So it let us get all of the back-end data connections and figure out all of the workflow options with a smaller group of people. And then from there, we moved on to cross-team demos. So we invited adjacent analytics teams to join in on some recorded demos. And we leveraged our Tableau and Looker power users quite heavily for this part. So we recorded a few quick demos with Rollstack and built out some FAQ resources. And then we published all of those to our Confluence and our Tableau and Looker Slack channels in our company, so that anyone could learn and pick it up at their own pace and at their own time, and that all of the FAQ resources that they might need to troubleshoot would be in the places that they were already working. So after all of that groundwork, the final stage happened really organically. This usage spread on its own throughout multiple teams in the org, and I think that's just a note to the resources being in all of the places that people were already using, and it being a really, really intuitive platform, as you guys will see during the demo. So this slide just shows our uptick of visual refreshes in Rollstack at Tripadvisor over time, starting all the way back Q1 of last year when we started our rollout with just a pilot with just our team, all the way up to what we've got now. And the main takeaway from this is that we're really happy with the success of this uptick. The usage scaled really well and really quickly, in our opinion. So all of those numbers kind of tell that same story. By the end of our pilot, we saw improved speed, consistency, and trust for our data insights across the whole company. Saving 10 hours per analyst per week adds up pretty fast. And that just meant that we were spending less time doing that manual refresh work, and instead getting our analysts back to the work that they love, doing more ad hoc and deeper insight level analysis. And it also meant that we had a standard process. A different analyst could pick it up and reproduce it reliably every single week. We improved the standardization and the look of all of our visuals and data across the org, and we really felt, we saw an uptick in the usage of our Tableau dashboard as well. So that meant a big win in us being able to say that we had leveraged that ad hoc analytics ability of Tableau, and that the rest of the company was able to benefit from that. And finally, the success of the adoption just kind of speaks for itself. We now use it beyond just that weekly business review deck. We use it for, on our team, QBRs and board decks. And then we also have other teams across the company, our marketing and supply teams, picking it up. So we've been really happy with the success of the adoption. It means that it's more than just one tool for one team. It's an enterprise-capable platform that the rest of the team can use, so that we have more automated data insights in our presentations. And with that, I'll hand it over to Nabil.
Awesome, thank you, Rachel. Now, these challenges that Tripadvisor faced aren't really unique to their org. And again, if you're all here today, it's likely because this resonates. They're actually the norm in all data orgs. And the fundamental reason is we've spent the last decade building an incredible data stack, modern data stack, better pipelines, better warehouses, better dashboards. But there is still this gap that was known for the past years, which is called the last mile problem. The data exists, the insights exist, but they're not reaching really the people making these decisions. So the core issue is this. You have on one side platforms where data is being visualized, which are essentially the tools of the analysts, of data literates. And then on the other side, you have platforms based on which decisions are being made and where the business executives live. Decks, docs, emails, and all that, and Slack messages. So we've essentially optimized the left side, and we've mostly ignored the right side. And the data simply backs it up. These numbers are coming from the BARC BI adoption study. Sure, some of you might have heard about it, but it was mandated by a lot of BI companies to essentially understand what is the state of the BI tools adoption. And what it essentially points to is this hard reality that only 25% of a company's employees actively using a BI tool. And the number hasn't really moved in years, despite billions, again, being invested in the space. 10 seconds is the time it takes execs to bounce from dashboards. And you have more than half the data, and I'm sure this is no surprise to all of you, of a company that has just simply never analyzed. And then lastly, only 24% of business leaders pass the basic data literacy tests. And that is quite scary. But at the same time, when you think about it, you are the data specialist, not them. So question is, how do you bridge that gap? Now, this is how it often plays out. You imagine this beautiful dashboard. It's beautiful, it's interactive, has drill downs, and you think, my CFO is absolutely gonna love it. So you're proud of it, you ship it to Slack, and then nothing. You look at the dashboard analytics, and you see that none of them actually spend any time on it. So, and then someone asks you, hey, can someone update this Q4 number in the board deck? So how do we bridge that gap? Well, first of all, there's this realization that your models are right, your dashboards are great, but executive reporting is still manual. And in fact, when you look at it, 35 million presentations are delivered every single day to over 500 million people worldwide. Like, this is it's a pretty high number, and this number is even growing. And when you look at it, executives spend a lot of their time in PowerPoints, and so as their thought partners and their data experts, the question is, how can we help them do that better? Now, this meme might feel a little too familiar, but it perfectly captures the struggle that unfortunately a lot of the analysts deal with every day. And this struggle is what Rachel and Tyler did a really good job in mapping out, but essentially it's this big chain of data manipulation that happens outside of the source of truth of the BI tool. So what you see oftentimes teams doing is exporting from Tableau, Looker, Power BI, CSV, dumping that into an Excel, rebuilding a lot of times these same visuals that you've put in dashboards, right? And simply because they want either the data to be sliced and diced differently than what you've created in the dashboard, or simply because they want to format it differently, or maybe add some calculated columns. And then from there, they have to do again the whole formatting, copy paste into slide, do all the manual QN and check-in, and this is how you end up with wrong numbers in an important deck. I'm sure you've all seen the Lyft earnings results reporting issue they had a couple of years back, where they added a zero, and that had massive impacts on their stock price. And we were joking about this with Rachel and Taylor, but we don't want to be in the shoes of that finance analytics team that was responsible of that. So what you essentially end up with is just slower decisions, lower trust in numbers, and massive talent wasted. Like, analysts absolutely hate this. So you'll hear a lot about agents during this conference, so I'm not going to throw a bunch of buzzwords on you, but the analytics era essentially is now entering the agentics era, and the potential of that is essentially just being able to serve better business executives in places they're used to. I think this, beyond again all the buzzwords, this should really be the main takeaway. So you're going to be seeing Tableau next with all the battery of tools Tableau has introduced, from Data Pro for the text to SQL problem, from concierge to ask data in natural language, from inspector to monitor data. And Rollstack essentially comes in as the last mile here, allowing you to push that data automatically into content platforms like Slides, Documents, PowerPoints, Slides, and so on. This is where we essentially fit in the space. Think about us as the last mile in the stack, taking those automation capabilities of the modern data stack a step further into content platforms where data is being presented to execs. Quick words about us before we dive into the demo. We help teams at companies from small to large enterprises like Whirlpool, T. Rowe Price, SoFi, CarGurus, and many others, and the amazing team at Tripadvisor scale their data-driven reporting. Typical use cases we see across the board, and you had a glimpse at some of those at Tripadvisor, but they include executive business reviews, financial reporting, client presentations. They tend to be ranging anywhere from daily for some reports. We see a lot of teams do things like daily digests in the form of emails to execs, to quarterly for things like financial reporting or board decks. A couple of examples before, again, diving into the demo. This is the SoFi's team that had a similar use case to the Tripadvisor team, but their challenge was more around how can we shorten the time to close. If you work with FP&A teams, finance teams, you know how stressful that end of the quarter is for them. because in the same week you have to prepare the weekly business review, the monthly business review, the quarterly business review, the board deck, and all the earnings results that Tyler is flying to handle tomorrow, and all that in a very time-constrained manner. So, and then you have Sony Music, who was able to scale their artist reporting. So interestingly, this is an interesting use case where their clients are essentially artists, and they were able to scale client reporting for all these artists, leveraging the platform. We're talking here about more than 10,000 artists. But with that, let's move on to the fun part. So this is Rollstack. Think about Rollstack as the automation platform for data-driven reporting. So what Rollstack helps you automate is all these formats from slides, docs, G Suite, Microsoft Suite, but also email format. It does that using data connections to various platforms. So the big advantage of Rollstack is we connect to various data sources. And so we allow you, and the reality of many enterprises, they use multiple BI tools, Tableau and Looker, Tableau and maybe Power BI, Tableau Excel, the OG BI tool that will always be there. So you can essentially get all these data all together and use that to automate a deck, all while following those BI tools as the source of truth. And this is really an important point here, is everything is traceable through the platform, and you have this lineage view of your data as it goes from the data warehouse into the deck, making it very easy for you to audit, see what's coming from Tableau, from dashboard 1, dashboard 2, etc., and map those things out into the content platform that is being shared with execs. So once you set up the data connections, and these are generally set across the whole organization, they take no more than 5 minutes to do, all plug and play. From here, you're good to go, and the experience for the business users truly starts here. So as a business user, I'm able to first select the format I want to use as starting point. And this is all on brand. Companies generally start off their company's branded template, so they are able to select it directly from their drive. So whatever Rollstack creates is directly within the company's branded templates, and that is a very important point. Once you select your report, Rollstack will show you here the skeleton of your deck. And I'll show you here sort of the typical output of what Rollstack is able to create for you. I'm sure this format will look familiar, but you have multiple slides, views of, let's say here, a weekly business review with visualizations coming from here, in this case, Tableau, with some narratives, insights here on the right-hand side that help you tell stories and narratives around your data. If we take the example of this typical data-driven slide, Rollstack is able to update everything for you, from getting you the visuals from the Tableau dashboard, helping you write the narratives and insights using AI, to even recommending a headliner, again, using AI, and all that according to your company's branded templates. Now, how do you build things like this? So, as mentioned, first step is you're going to be selecting your template. From here, Rollstack will show you the skeleton of your deck, exactly like you can see it on PowerPoint or Google Slides. And this is where you can see here, I have my sales by product on slide 5. I have my this customer distribution on slide 7. I have on slide 9 an AI-generated insights alongside the orders by days shipment, etc., and so on and so forth. Now, let's say we want to build something new here on slide 13, right? So 3 main objects will help you do that. First, you can add visualizations. This is self-explanatory. Those are going to be coming directly from your BI tool. So let's go over that step together. 2, you can add AI insights. And then 3, you can add variables. Variables are simply things like update date, to have that appended directly on the cover page of your deck. So all these things can be automated through the platform. Now, for visualizations, you first select your BI tool. So here, in this case, we're selecting our Tableau prod. From here, you're going to be selecting your dashboard. Let's select this one. And then from here, like with any dashboard, you can navigate it. You can enter any filters, parameters. Anything you enter here is going to be saved for you and preserved. Now, let's say we want to get this visualization. But first, let's select region being central. And then from here, you can hit continue. And you see that Rollstack identifies the visualizations for you. And it's all very granular. So you can select things at the worksheet level, at the container level, at the full dashboard level. It's all highly granular. You can pick that legend. And again, all considering a Tableau dashboard as a source of truth. Now, let's say we want to take this sales by product view. We're going to hit continue. And this is where it becomes really, really interesting. So Rollstack gives you the option to get those visualizations either as a Tableau chart. Tableau has best-in-class visualizations. So obviously, you might want to preserve that as you get those visuals into the deck. And so in this case, it will be high fidelity, high definition. This isn't the Tableau export where you export to PDF and everything is pixelated. extremely high definition, so looks great. Or second option is converting that into a native chart. So the interesting part is Rollstack has the option to convert, let's say, a chart from the Tableau format into the PowerPoint format, meaning that it will come on brand. And a lot of times you hear, especially from client-facing teams, I don't want the Tableau viz. I want to have this looking like a PowerPoint chart. I want this table to be a real native PowerPoint chart that I can, that is really according to my company's branded template. So this option allows you to do that, and you see here that like magic, Rollstack was able to map out the different fields. You hit save, and then boom, it adds it for you in the deck as this time around a native PowerPoint chart. Now, let's say we like the Tableau format better. We're gonna hit save here, and then from here, Rollstack will work on adding this visualization for you directly to the deck. Now, the second thing that you can add, as mentioned, is AI insights. And the way insights work is you can point them to a specific visualization in your deck. So here we're gonna point them to the sales by product visual. And then from here, you can give it instructions in terms of how you want to analyze this. So for example, summarize the key takeaways in 3 bullets, format numbers properly. And then from here, it will go ahead and extract those insights. Few notes on this. It can format it for you exactly how you want it, either as a slide title, as a main takeaway, as a narrative and paragraph that you can append to your slide. And the good thing is you can interact with it, give it instructions, and you can also be more prescriptive. Like a lot of times we see teams have their own way of narrating data. Things like last week revenue went up by 7% to 1.2 billion, driven by X, Y, and Z. So you can have that as an input and just simply tell the platform, follow this strictly. And obviously with AI, you don't want hallucinations. So what Rollstack does is it follows a very deterministic approach. So we only use LLMs for what they do best, which is text. So our approach to gleaning insights is, one, according to the semantic layer of Tableau, so the source of truth is preserved, the definitions are correct, and it also makes the output extremely valuable and extremely correct. Now from here, it was able to get the insights for us, and we can go ahead and add them directly to our deck. Now from here, we can go ahead and take a look at our slide. So as you can see here, we have the visual on the left, and then we have the key takeaways on the right. The cool thing here is you can format your charts and text however you want it. So you can go ahead and make modifications if you want to, but any changes you're gonna make are gonna be preserved throughout the subsequent updates. So formatting is essentially done once and then saved throughout the subsequent updates. The second thing you can do is have a link that redirects to the dashboards. And you saw Rachel earlier say that with Rollstack, the Tableau dashboard adoption also increased. And this can help in that direction as well. So by having a link that takes people into the dashboard, if they want to do some dig in, some zoom in inside the meeting or elsewhere, they can also do that. Now, from here, everything is on autopilot. You can schedule your deck exactly like with dashboards to update whenever you want. You can keep archives, which is something that typically BI tools don't really make it easy to do. All according to the schedule of your choice. You can have all the different setups possible. I want this to update every other Monday of the year. So all these things can be personalized, and then you can have Rollstack distribute these decks directly to your audience via email and other communication channels. So this is the first part of what Rollstack allows you to do. So build in templates for your automated reporting. The second thing, which is by far our most important use case, is scaling reporting. So a lot of times you see teams having to scale reporting in a consistent way across regions. So you have your global organization, you want to create a report for the North America team, for the LATAM team, EMEA, APAC, etc. Or you work in customer success and you're building client decks. So how do you go from a template to 1,000, 10,000 for some of our customers of client decks? Well, you can do that very easily with what we call dynamic reports, which is our fancy way of saying bursting. And the way it works is you essentially can take this template that you just created and tell the platform, I want to generate many, many reports all at scale, all by iterating on this given variable or dimension. So if I work in sales operations and I'm interested in building decks for each of the sales channels, I can go ahead and select sales channel. If I work in sales and I'm interested in building one deck by customer, I can go ahead and select customer. And then from here, I'll pass you all the details, but you can essentially personalize anything here, from naming conventions, from where the decks are stored, etc. And the output of what Rollstack will create for you is something that looks like this, where you have a group of decks all governed by the initial template that you've created. And here, as you can see, we have one deck for TreeLab, Apollo. These are all customers. And if I want to add more customer decks, all I have to do is select directly from the drop-down list the customers I want to build these reports for. So very, very, very easy process. And the interesting thing here is they will all follow that template that you've created initially. And provided you want to make some changes as you scale, obviously you will continue getting feedback from execs. Hey, can we add this view on this slide? Can we add some tree slides here and there? Rollstack makes it very easy for you to manage versions at scale with our own version of, think about it really as GitHub for documents. So we've built really a platform allowing you to compare versions at scale and be in a position where you can simply take this slide and then propagate it across. So any changes you want to make can be easily managed across various versions. And then exactly like with standard reports, you can schedule them to update whenever you want, and then you can also distribute them at scale so that each team receives their own reports. Now, everything is governed, as you all saw, and everything is governed by that single source of truth. Few additional words about us. Your row-based access controls are by default propagated. So any RBACs you have already set up in Tableau will be inherited by the platform automatically without having to maintain its own two separate platforms, meaning that users can only use Rollstack on data they already have access to on the BI tool. Second thing, it's obviously SOC 2 Type 2, GDPR, HIPAA compliant, and then the last thing is there is no data persistence. So your data, your slides and decks are actually stored directly within your drives. And then lastly, for the AI insights, same thing. We don't train on any of the customer data. Everything is stored directly in your drives. So that ensures that you both have the context from the semantic layer, but you also get the context from the slides. And that is a very important part. So a lot of the narratives that teams will write is actually directly included in slides, and they want to be able to reference it as they build more and more reports. So with the platform, you can easily do that. That's it for us today. Thank you so much for being with us today. It was really a pleasure doing this with you all. And if you have any questions, we're booth 10. Otherwise, you can scan this QR code for a personal tour. Hope you enjoyed the conference. And if you have any questions, we're here till the end of the time. Thank you.